Today I want to talk about 6 things that you need to know before quitting your job without having another job lined up or without having a clear plan about what you want to do next. What I will try to do is to share with you 6 things that I think are really important to be aware of before making this big decision. So if you're still on the fence right now, I think that after you finish watching this video, you'll be able to make up your mind. And especially number 6 will help you to make a really solid decision. So stick with me to the end. So let's get right into it. Number 1 is that building anything new takes longer than you think. When I first quit my job, all that I wanted to do is to focus on acting. And eventually, yes, I got some acting jobs, and yes, I built my side businesses which generated some income for me. But I have to tell you that it took a lot of time, much longer than I expected. Getting acting jobs was a long process, and it also took a while, almost 1 year, to get my small business up and running till I got to the point that it could generate some income for me. But had I known when I was still in my old job that everything would take that much time, I might have decided to stay just a tiny bit longer in my old job. The problem was that all of my plans hinged on things that were new to me. And the point is that anything new is likely to take much longer than you think, especially if you don't have any experience in that new field yet. By the way, in case you're thinking about quitting your job, what are your biggest concerns or considerations? Please share them with me in the comments below. So right now, you might be thinking about quitting your job right now and only after that start applying for a new job, or only after that start building your new business. And it might sound like a good plan, but believe me, it isn't. You will waste a lot of time doing it that way. So I'm not telling you not to quit your job. I'm just saying that it might be a good idea to just stay there, hang in there a bit longer. Stay in your job for a couple of more months or a year, just as long as you need to plan your path ahead more carefully. Treat this as a warm-up phase while you are still working in your old job that you are getting paid for. In parallel, you can start preparing your next move. When planning ahead, you need to make some room for error. You need to plan in a solid buffer. This means that if you think that you will need 2 to 3 months to get your dream job, you should build in a buffer there and be prepared for 5 to 6 months or even longer. Don't rely on the chance that everything might just magically fall into place. By the way, if you like this video so far, then please give it a thumbs up. And also, if you don't want to miss out on my future videos, then you might want to hit the subscribe button now and also the little notification bell so that YouTube will notify you of my new videos. The next really important thing that you need to know about before leaving your job is the importance of cash flow. And many people tend to confuse cash flow with value and profit. Of course, your skills and work experiences are valuable, and your property, if you have a house, is also valuable. You might even have a business that is running and that is profitable, but profit is not the same as cash flow. You might have assets, skills, and a business that is valuable on paper, but all of those things can't feed you. Of course, eventually you can convert your skills and your assets into cash flow, but your skills themselves cannot directly pay your bills. You need cash to pay your bills, and the moment that you don't have any cash anymore, then it's game over. You might have saved up quite some money when you were working, and you might also have an emergency fund, but those savings will only last you that long. Once you quit your job and you don't have a steady income stream anymore, your savings will dry out faster than you can imagine. My point here is that if you want to continue to play the game, which in this sense is to go after your dreams, your passions, or whatever, you need to have a healthy cash flow. And you do this by planning your cash flow in advance carefully while you are still in your old job, while you are still earning an income. You need to plan and project your cash flow going forward. This means that you need to make good estimations about how much cash will flow out and how much cash will come in. As soon as that number becomes negative in a month, what is likely to happen is that you either have to rely on credit card debt or you are forced to go back to your old job. The other thing to keep in mind here is that everything is likely to cost more and not less than you think. So let's say, for example, that you estimate your monthly expenses to be $2,500, including your mortgage, groceries, health expenses, transportation, and so on. But think again, does that $2,500 really include everything? Have you accounted for trips to the cinema, vacations, electronic purchases, or gifting to family and friends. If you include all of that, your monthly expenses is likely to be more than $2,500. And here again, I'm not telling you not to quit your job, but what I'm trying to tell you here that it is really important, I would say the most important thing, to really plan out your cash flow. Because as soon as you don't have any money to pay your bills and your expenses, then you will be forced to either go back to your old job if they will still take you, or you will need to take up another job, another part-time job that you don't really want. So what's the point then if you leave one job in the hurry just to get stuck in another job that you don't like as well? A better plan would be to hang in there in the company just a bit longer to sort out all of your finances. And when you think that you're ready, perhaps you might talk to a personal finance advisor or so. Only after you've sorted that out, then go ahead and quit your job. Another thing that I want to mention in relation to cash flow is that you shouldn't rely on income that is not generated yet. And what I mean by this is that, of course, you should put the estimated amount of money that you will be able to generate in future in your cash flow projection, but you cannot rely on that number. Although you project that in your 4th month of freelancing, you will be able to generate $2,000 per month, that is not a certainty yet. Instead of assuming that you'll be able to earn $2,000 in your 4th month, scale down the projection to a lower figure. Knowing that you'll not be able to rely on your income that early, you'll know that you might need to save up more for your emergency fund. Your emergency or your savings fund will act as a backup during those months during which you haven't achieved your new income targets yet. The third important thing to know about before quitting your job is not to burn your ships and your bridges. You might have heard about the advice about burning your old ships to eliminate any possibility about going back so that you can focus on the thing that is right in front of you now. You might also have come across the quote from Sun Tzu which says, "When your army has crossed the border, you should burn your boats and bridges in order to make it clear to everybody that you have no hankering after home." While this strategy might have worked well in war times, it's not a strategy that will work well when you're about to quit your job. Guys, this is not war. I get that you might hate your job and that you want to get out of there as fast as possible, but guys, do not burn your ships. Do not badmouth your company. There's absolutely nothing that you can gain from that. You might be thinking that at any cost, you do not want to go back to your old company ever. And I'm not saying that the reason that you should keep the door open is because it gives you the possibility of future employment, but rather because you never know where and how and what capacity you will cross paths with the company or your former employer in future. As a freelancer or even as an employee in another company, there is always the possibility that in future you will work on common projects or that you will be their client or they will be your client. It's a very, very small world and you have to keep your reputation intact. Don't destroy your relationship with your former employer or company. On the contrary, I would say that while you are still in your old job, work on strengthening the ties and relationships that you have there. After I quit my job in banking, I stayed in touch with some of the key people that I admired and with whom I wanted to stay in touch in the long term. I was looking for funding to produce my own feature film, but eventually the introduction done by one of my former colleagues in banking, who introduced me to someone else, who then again introduced me to another person, was what got me there. So never underestimate the long-term importance of your former relationships, and that is what I mean by not burning your bridges. Like I said, you'll never know how and in what capacity you might cross paths in future. You might get a project referred to you by a former colleague, or you might even join up with a company to work on a common project. Number 4 is to be aware about how your decision of quitting your job will affect the people around you, the people close to you. And oh man, this is really a tough one. This goes out to all the people who have other people relying on them. I really understand if you feel that right now you want to leave your job immediately and don't look back. Perhaps you just can't stand it anymore and you just need to get out of there as soon as possible, whatever the cost. And if you're single, you don't have kids, and you don't have anyone else relying on you financially, then that is something that you could do because you're only going to be responsible toward yourself. But If you are someone who has kids or you have parents or other family members relying on you, then you really need to think about how this affects them. Of course, you might say, this is my life. I'm living my life for myself and not for other people. And in the end, this is what I need to do in order to be happy. But think again, is this really what you want? Think about how quitting your job right now at this very moment will affect the people around you. If up until now you had been supporting people financially in your family, and after you quit you'll not be able to do that anymore, think about what that will mean for them. When I was still working in my banking job, which paid me a very high salary, I was able to support some people in my family financially. I knew that supporting these people financially was not my responsibility, but yet deep down inside, I knew that that was something that I ideally would like to do. I cared about these people and I wanted to support them. But after I left my job and didn't enjoy that high income anymore, I was no longer to support them to the same extent as before. And that turned out to be a very heavy burden on my shoulders. Right now, if you're still working in your job, supporting other people, you might feel that doing this job is a very heavy burden. But if you think that this is a heavy burden now, I can't tell you how much heavier it will feel after you quit your job and you have to tell those people that you will no longer be able to support them. At times, that situation, that fact was making me really sad, and I was even feeling guilty at times about it, even though I knew that I shouldn't be feeling guilty about it because it wasn't really my responsibility. But this is something that you should consider really carefully. Even though you might be thinking that those people you're supporting are by now either grown up enough or whatever enough to be able to support themselves instead of relying on you, still you need to give them some time at least to transition. Don't surprise them and come out of the blue and tell them that, okay, starting next month, the 1st of February, March or whatever, I will no longer be able to support you. A better solution is to communicate to them far in advance, months before, 6 months before, or even longer, about your plans that you will eventually quit your job and that they might need to find other solutions in order to pay their bills. And if these people are really important to you, then you might even want to take in some feedback from them and reconsider your time of your planned resignation. And in the end, it may mean that you might need to stay in your old job a bit longer for a few more months, and I know that you will hate it, but trust me, in the end, even though you're staying longer, as long as you've accounted for all the people that you care for, you will feel better in the end. Number 5 is the importance of a transition and exit strategy. You need a transition strategy for your finances as well as for your career. And this is what I mean. If after quitting your job, your plan is to start freelancing, building a business, or changing careers to get into a new industry, there will be a considerable amount of time, a phase in between where you need to figure things out. Let's say that you were a marketing manager and you are planning to become an interior designer, but you haven't fully made up your mind yet whether or not you want to go back to school or maybe just take an online course or work as an apprentice for someone and so on. And the danger or the risk that I see here is that of wasting your time. If by the time that you quit your job, you don't have a concrete and clear plan yet, chances are that you will get into a situation of analysis paralysis. And I have made a video separately on this topic that I linked up here. For example, if you are interested in interior design, but you don't really know yet whether or not you want to really spend money on a degree, what you can do is simply just take an online course that is not much of an investment, that will not cost you a lot of money, perhaps a couple of $100, and not that much of your time. There is not much risk in that. But on the positive side, what will happen is that you will be likely to discover new things about yourself. You also need to have a transition strategy for your finances, because after you quit your job, it is very likely that you'll not be able to immediately earn the same income as you did before. And of course, you can spend all of your savings, but who would want to do that? So a better solution would be that while working on building your business or trying to get your new dream job, to take a part-time job at the side or do some freelancing in an area that you are already an expert at. I know it's not the ideal solution, but it is a good interim solution. Taking a part-time job on the side or doing some freelancing will mean that you cannot spend 100% of your time working on your new endeavor, but at least it will give you a peace of mind knowing that money will come in on a regular basis. Number 6 is something that is very specific to your personal situation, and that is that you need to know the risks that you are taking. Of course, it's impossible to know about all the possible risks that exist, but at least by having a rough overview about what the risks are when you quit your job, you will be able to make a well-informed decision. Most people would think that only quitting their job is something that is risky, but I would say that even staying in your current job that you really hate, that is so dreadful, that makes you feel miserable, has its own set of risks. The famous psychology professor Jordan Peterson says this about staying in a dead-end job.
What about the risks for you to stay with this job you absolutely hate? Well, let's think that through. Okay, so I have this dead-end job. I hate it. I'm getting bitter. Where am I going to be in 5 years? I know where, because I've watched this with people. You're going to be just like you are now, except a lot more of what's good about you is going to be gone, and a lot more of what's terrible is going to be amplified.
So let's think about that. A lot about what's good about you is going to be gone, and a lot more of what's terrible is going to be amplified. And I think this makes totally sense. A job or a career is not just about the money or the career development, but it goes much further than that. The wrong job or the wrong career can have long-term negative effects on your enthusiasm and your outlook for life. For more about that, check out my other video, which I link up here. So in each person's case, there are risks to staying in the job as well as leaving the job. There is no way around that. And you surely know that everything that is worthwhile to pursue has its risks and challenges. So what are you going to do about that? What you can do is try to identify the risks and then manage them, or at least try to minimize them a bit. Let's say that you are planning to spend $10,000 of your own money working on a startup business for 2 years in its first phase. Think about what are the risks in this case. What is the worst case scenario that could happen? The worst case scenario would be that you would lose the $10,000. If the startup doesn't work out, there might be some embarrassment. Your business might fail completely and you might need to start all over again. And then you need to ask yourself, knowing these risks, am I going to go ahead anyway? And again here, I'm not trying to discourage you from going ahead, but all I'm saying is that by knowing your risks, you will eventually have smoother sailing because you will know what to look out for, what the dangers are, what the pitfalls are. And instead of being surprised by unexpected things coming your way, you will already be prepared for them and have an idea about how you will deal with the situation. If you are starting a new business and you are aware of the possibility that it might fail, because many businesses do, you will have less regret in future, because in future, in case your business fails, you will not tell yourself something like, why were you so stupid back then and took that decision? But instead of that, you will tell yourself, no, I'm still happy with the decision I made. I made the best decision possible at the time with the information that I had, because I was aware of the risks, and nevertheless, I still wanted to go ahead because at least I wanted to have a shot. Talking about risks might sound scary, but I think that once you know your risks and you know how to manage them, then you can put that aside for a while, and then you can focus fully on working on all of your opportunities and making the best of your plan. So all in all, there is no one standard formula that can tell you whether or not you should quit your job. But by knowing about these 6 things, it will help you to arrive at a well-informed decision. By the way, has any of these 6 things changed your mind on your decision of quitting your job? Please share with me in the comments below. Also, please share with me in the comments in case you think that I left out anything, or if you have anything to add. I hope this video was useful to you. Please share it with your friends or other people who you think will benefit from this video. I hope this video was useful to you. Also, don't forget to check out my other videos on career change and multiple careers. As always, I thank you so much for watching. All the best, and I hope to catch you again soon.